Hey guys, I want to welcome you to my first Google Hangout live stream about how to choose your graphic design niche. So I'm going to go through several steps that I think are really helpful for trying to figure out a niche that's going to work best for you. And once I wrap that up, we'll have some time for some Q&A. So you'll see the chat to your right, and you can enter in questions there. Oh, sorry. I'm having sound issues. There we go. So if you want to enter your questions in now into the chat, that way I can kind of just go over them as soon as we're all done with all the information. Or, wait if you want to. I will try and get to everybody's question as quickly as I can. But for now, let's just go ahead and get started. So choosing your graphic design niche. This is the question that I get asked more than any other question. And the truth of the matter is, I'm going to give you some guidelines here, but I can't pick your niche for you. You're the only one that's going to know what's going to work best for you. And that can depend on a lot of different factors. But to get yourself organized and start figuring out what's going to be best for you, the first thing I suggest everybody does is sit down and write your interests or your hobbies that you have outside of design, something you're passionate about, you enjoy doing, you already spend time in that area of your life. So just sit those down, and then after you've written out everything that you enjoy doing, order them and really look at your top three. Those top three things more than likely have some kind of industry, that works within them. Like for me, I love my dog. I enjoy reading good books. I enjoy the internet. So with that in mind, pet industry for dogs, gee, go figure. And book industry, for if I enjoy reading and stuff like that. So try and equate some kind of industry to your interests. Some of them are going to be a little bit more abstract. Like let's say you go going for nature walks. That could go anywhere from camping equipment to working with nonprofits on conservation and everything else. So, kind of take some time to drill down and figure out an industry that's linked with some of your interests. So after you figure that out, the next thing I suggest is looking at the network that you already have. So all the people that you know, more than likely an interest or hobby that you have, you're going to have other people that you know that share that interest or that hobby. Make sure that your relationships are good with them and see if you might actually have people you already know working in an industry that you're interested in, potentially choosing as your niche. So write those out, and you're going to kind of want to write all of this out so that you have each industry along the top, and then how many friends you have in this, and some of the other things that we're going to talk about. Because by figuring out what all of these things have together, you'll figure out the best niche that you're already kind of networked in and have some of these other things going for you. So then after you've figured out your network and see if you've got some people in different areas, and just because you may not have people in that area doesn't mean that it can't be your niche. It just is a heck of a lot easier to get into an industry that you already have friends in. So after that, take some time and research these industries that you're potentially interested in, the top three ones. Do they have lots of designers already? Not many. Do these industries, what do they need as far as design? Do they need it on a regular basis? For Derek Sharp, hi Derek, he works with wrestlers and that whole scene. So they need event flyers monthly. So that's something that, he gets nice steady work in. It's a good way to look at your industry that you're thinking about too. Do they need monthly things? Do they need yearly things? And try and figure that out a little bit and see what they really need as far as design goes. Because, if they don't need a whole heck of a lot, you're going to need a lot more clients. So figuring out what works best there is another big thing about researching and knowing and making a good decision about your niche. So after that, take some time with these three things and see what would set you apart in that industry, if it's competitive or if it's not. Do you have, personal experience in this? I used to work in the pet industry. Do you have a really strong passion for, this industry and what you really care about it and everything else, and you're already knowledgeable perhaps? Or, every single designer has a really unique perspective in the way that they go about solving problems visually and through graphic design. So that could be the thing that sets you apart from everybody else, is just your own unique perspective. I like thinking about this particular point, especially early on, because it's going to help you figure out how to market yourself once you get into that industry. Because even if, you know, it's not just the niche people that you're going to have to work to get jobs from as well, it's also generalists. So you have to figure out how you can sell yourself best, and looking at it really early on when you're making the decision makes it a heck of a lot easier when you keep moving forward. So, and finally, with all of that, you're going to want to review your answers for each one of these and see, you know, ultimately at the end of the day, I think you need to pick the one that you're most interested in, even if you're not super networked in it and it might be a little bit more difficult. If you're passionate about it, that really, really sells. I know it does for me. And so with that in mind, you know, keep going through it from a business standpoint as well. Like, okay, so I'm best networked in this one, and the industry needs a lot of design for this and everything else. And kind of, it helps you make a more informed decision than just like, hey, I really like this stuff, so this is what I'm going to do. You know, and you might, some people, it's really hard. It can take a while for you to really figure out what's going to be your niche. And with these top three, you can also start doing all three of them and figure out which one you like best as you move forward with it. But for some people, it's going to be really easy to figure out your niche. Like for me, you know, I was walking out of an industry that I really loved and I didn't want to leave. So I, you know, just carried on with it into graphic design. For other people, you know, you might have a lot of different interests, but not feel like many of them have a good industry for you or whatever else. So it might take a little longer, but it's worth it to kind of do the legwork and really sit down and take some time and think about it. So I know that was really short, but those are my big tips for, you know, just those 5 easy steps, just to review them. Write down your interests and your hobbies, order them and pick your top 3. From there, look at your personal network, the people that you know, see how many people fit within those industries of those top 3. Do the research on those industries, figure out what kind of design needs they have, if the market's really competitive for it, or if it's nice and, you know, kind of open for you. Then think about what your unique selling point is in every single industry. You might have one that's stronger in one than the others. And finally, review all of those answers and figure out what the best strategic decision for you is within choosing your niche. So with all of that, now I am totally open to taking questions. It doesn't necessarily have to be about finding your niche, but I'd love to take those and any other kind of niche questions that you have. So, hi Ariel, I just saw you over here. And so if anybody wants to ask me any questions in the chat over on the side here, I am more than happy to take them. I'm pretty sure I have a little bit of a delay from when I get your answers or for your questions. So sorry if I'm gonna just be sitting here. I'm gonna grab a drink of water while I wait. Sorry about that. So please hop on and ask any questions that you have about choosing your niche, about niche design in general. If you'd like me to share a little bit more about my story. Thanks, Roberto. I feel like I'm not doing the best, but I'm trying. You know, it's the first time, and you know, you just got to get used to it and keep going. There's about a 20-second delay. Okay, cool. And I'm sure that was 20 seconds late on a response. Tops. Okay. So, all right. Well, I think I'll give you guys a little bit more time here. I would love to answer any questions that you have about niche, whether it's, you know, choosing your niche or you're already in one and you're having a hard time, you know, selling yourself, anything like that. I am totally open. So just ask me a question. Thanks, Roberto. Oh. All right, Jordan, how long did it take for you to get into the niche that I'm in? Well, I'm a little strange in getting into a niche in that I worked in the pet industry for 6 years. And I had some health issues that made me no longer able to do the job that I had. So I decided that my dad was a multimedia developer, and I've been doing graphic design and stuff like that with him since I was about 10. And then I went off onto this pet industry position for a while and decided that I wanted to pick up graphic design again because it worked for my health and all that kind of stuff. And so I started with a really strong network, but it still took me at least 6 months to start getting work steadily, largely because I didn't know like how to best market myself. And, it's very different marketing a small business than it is marketing business to business. So that was an interesting hump that I had to get over. And after I did, I've learned a lot, and I really want to help other people not have that, lag time. As soon as I hit around the year mark, I started getting enough business that I didn't need any supplemental income. So let's see, we got a couple more questions here. Melissa, do you have to create the opportunity in your niche for design, or did I have to create the opportunity? Yes and no. I think you always have to kind of dig your own hole out of, claim your space inside an industry. And I noticed that the pet industry in particular was kind of barren on that front. I mean, your large businesses, they do great branding and all that kind of stuff because they get that, huge business needs that kind of appeal and everything else. But I saw all of these different pet businesses that were small mom and pop places that could have had a much better aesthetic, especially in the dog grooming area. That's what I did prior to leaving the industry there. And, it's an aesthetic business, and a lot of these groomers could use a lot of help. So when I recognized that need, I'm like, okay, I got to do this. This is going to help a lot of people, especially in that particular subsection of my niche in groomers, because you're in an aesthetic business. Let's make you pretty, and I started out with a phrase that I really like and I need to revive again in my advertising was groomers deserve graphics as beautiful as their grooms. And, yay, lots of G's there. But that kind of started getting the momentum going. And as people saw that I did good work and was priced in an area that they could fit, I started getting a lot more business. So yeah, I kind of had to build it out myself. But at the same time, a lot of these people knew they probably should be doing something like that, but there just weren't people marketing to them to get them comfortable enough to do this kind of stuff. So I think there was already a need there, and then I just kind of figured out how to get to these people that had the need. All right, and Roberto asks, is scaling in a niche harder than with a broad customer base, in my opinion? I think yes and no. I know, nice and specific. Yes, in that if you start with I've started with small mom and pop businesses, and until I figured out that I could offer things like payment plans and kind of choose to both do some lower cost projects and higher cost projects, I felt like I had kind of gotten myself stuck in a lower pricing bracket just because, small mom and pops can't afford something that a middle-sized business can. So at this point, I'm starting to kind of separate and I'm advertising to larger businesses and smaller businesses at the same time and deciding where I want to, when I want to be able to, work with someone on a more affordable level and when I can do larger projects and kind of figuring that out and balancing it. But I think ultimately in any niche, the best thing you can do, and I think this is true of just graphic design in general, really, really get networked. People want to work with people they know and with, people that are recommended to them by friends and all that kind of stuff. So I think in a niche, networking is even more important just because once you get to know people, you build good client relations and everything else, industries talk. They talk a lot to each other. So, that getting a name going that way is a great way to be able to scale your business too. Because, just one conversation with the right person can get you a huge gig and get you to keep moving on up. So I hope I answered that question clearly. I realize I'm kind of just talking a lot. Jordan, not sure if you mentioned this, but what are ways you can market yourself? What are the ways I market myself in the pet industry? Hold on a second. I'm getting a dry throat here. Excuse me. Okay. I didn't mention that, Jordan. The way that I market myself, the way that was most successful for me, especially in the beginning, was utilizing Facebook groups. Because I was a groomer, I was already in a ton of dog grooming Facebook groups. And I just kept joining other small pet business ones and, you know, pet sitters, all these kind of things. And just started getting to know the people in there, sharing good links for stuff about social media, about the importance of graphics in your business, all that kind of stuff, and answering a ton of advertising and marketing questions just to kind of establish my expertise and, you know, show people like I know what I'm doing and that I care and I will answer your questions even if it doesn't make me money. That right there is the key to me to building good relationships with and doing networking like that, is showing like, hey, I'm not here just to make a buck off of you. I honestly care and I want to share this information with you. And I think that's ultimately what all content marketing needs to be about too. Like, yes, it's great when you get, you know, ultimately, yes, you want to get that sale. But if you play the long game of, you know, I care, I know what I'm doing, and this is how I want to help you, they will come to you and you will get paid jobs. And once I started getting through Facebook groups, once I started getting a little momentum going there and everything else, I just started getting tons of referral business. And honestly, I didn't have a website until I was a year into my business. I know that sounds horrendous, but I had a Facebook page, and I asked every client when I finished a project with them, I asked them to leave a review on my Facebook page. So I have 20 reviews at least, and they're all 5 stars. And, you know, that alerts their friends too. So yay, working word of mouth there. So that's the #1 thing that's helped me. Other than that, I do a lot of email marketing now. That's something I just have developed in the last 6 to 10 months. And, you know, I'm building that up as well. So, but yeah, at the end of the day, I really hardcore believe in networking, and my industry in particular is very much on Facebook and on Facebook groups. And that's where I've gotten to know a lot of them. So, hey, Felipe. All right. Well, if anybody has any other questions, I am more than happy to answer, but let's see. I can probably chat for another 10 minutes or so if people still want to chat. All right, Roberto, how am I leveraging social media beyond Facebook, and what have my results been? Okay, in my industry, I am not finding, well, I'm finding a small sect of people that are more open to other platforms than just Facebook. And so I'm finding them in Twitter quite a bit. And I've gotten several relationships there that are going to be very interesting. I'm talking about teaming up with a web development and SEO business that is specific to pet sitters. And that's going to be interesting. So we'll see where that goes from there. I also started doing some Twitter chats that have been pretty effective as far as just building relationships with some other businesses on there. But I find a lot of, well, if I'm talking mom and pop, a lot of them don't know Twitter as well as they know Facebook. So, you know, I do a lot with Facebook because that's largely where my market is. I've tried Google Plus and my market really wasn't there. I tried really hard on the communities and I'd be the only person posting often. And, you know, I was just asking questions and trying to be social and would rarely, if ever, get replies. So that didn't seem like it was the most effective time use for me. I am getting more into LinkedIn now, and I'm going to see how that goes. There seem to be a lot of people active there and a lot of larger businesses and good contacts in that aspect. So I'll be definitely going into that more. There's also a really interesting networking group called Women in the Pet Industry, and it's called, the short name for that is WIPIN. And I have gotten quite a few referrals from ladies that are in there already, and I've actually already been asked to potentially speak there on their next conference, which is in August next year. So they're really interesting, and I'm going to kind of hop into that more and see how that works. But yeah, social media wise, the majority of people are in Facebook for me. So that's what I've been doing. I'm really excited about Twitter. I haven't been on Twitter for very long, which is kind of sad considering how young I am. But I'm working on it. I've gotten some pretty interesting relationships out of it thus far. And, you know, the biggest thing with Twitter is like, you just need to be on it and you need to actually talk to people like a normal person. Everybody seems to respond to that really great. Doing a lot of pushy stuff on any social media platform is bad. All right. And, oh, I'm sorry, Paws. I am going to slaughter saying your name. So I'm just going to say Positive. Did you come across people who don't see the potential in design and feel they don't need that? If yes, how do you approach them and present true value of the design to them? Yes. Yes, I've definitely come across people especially when you're talking mom and pops, and truthfully, a lot of the smaller portions of pet industry, I'm the first time they're ever talking to a graphic designer. So, you know, it's like, they don't know how this works. They don't understand what like real return on investment is in design and all that kind of stuff. So I usually just take some time to talk to them about how my process works, how customer centric I am, and how I really want to make their business grow and succeed. And these are the ways that I can do that. And this is why it matters. I'm actually planning to, I've already written an article about it, and I'm planning on doing a video about what the return on investment is for design and why it's so worth it. If you want to check out the article, it's actually live on my website, pawsfordesign.com. If you just click over the blog, it's the first one on there. And so that's kind of, I'm trying to put in a value proposition, as Roberto has talked to me about, with like saying, okay, this is an investment. This is where you're going to see the short-term return on investment, which is going to be more of the boost in sales initially, and your long-term return on investment, which is creating loyal followers, you know, creating loyal brand representatives. And, you know, sometimes like, think about Pepsi and Coke. Like, there are Coke families where if you bring over Pepsi, that's insulting, and, you know, vice versa. And you can build that kind of brand loyalty, and it starts with branding, and it starts with good design. And, you know, talking to them and helping them think about not only just the short term, like, okay, well, this, yeah, it costs several $100s, you know, or $1,000 or whatever the project cost is. But here's, you know, yeah, that's the short-term cost, but think about all the long-term gain that you're getting. That is, you know, there's hard numbers and there's soft numbers on it. So that's, the article is a lot more concise about that, because I spent some time to actually edit myself down, which is something I have to work on. But I hope that helps, especially the article, and I will definitely be doing a video on it soon. It's going to be 2 pet businesses, but hearing what I have to say, you can probably utilize that to help you with like that value proposition and all that kind of stuff. So Jordan, how do you deal with potential clients who try to lowball you with your pricing? I don't. I tell people like, okay, this is what my base fee is, or, you know, we talk about a project and I give them a quote. And if they say that's too much, I mentioned that I offer payment plans, and if they still say it's too much, then I just basically tell them, like, I understand everybody's on a budget. This is, you know, this is the price, and, you know, I wish you the best of luck. Like, I don't turn people absolutely away or anything like that, but at the same time, after I've been really open, transparent, show them exactly like what they're getting for their money and all that kind of stuff, if they still can't see the value in it, no matter how much I've talked to them, like how much I've, you know, tried to show them how much is involved in the process, all that kind of stuff, if they still just don't want to give me a whole lot of money, then I just tell them good luck. Because at the end of the day, like, that's not the kind of client you really want. Like, there are clients that are good fits for you, and there are those that aren't. So I'm looking for my ideal client, which is somebody that actually recognizes that investing in design is going to be a positive investment in their business. And I use the YouTube channel and my blogging and everything else to help educate the industry about why that's valuable and everything else, so that I should hopefully have less of those kind of price opposition conversations, because people will be able to learn through me why it's valuable and why they should care about it. So, all right. Did that answer your question well, Jordan, or anybody else? Is there something that I missed that in your question? I seem to just have the most horrible dry mouth today. All right. So I don't see anybody else asking any questions here. So I know some of you might have joined a little late in the game here. So I'm just going to do a quick recap of my 5 steps to choosing a niche for yourself, and how to kind of do it in a both passionate and logical way. And that would be, first, write down your interests and your hobbies. Order them and pick your top 3 that you enjoy the most, that you're passionate about the most, all that. Then 2, look at your network that you already have and see where in those 3 interests people fit into that. See how many people you're already connected with into the industry that you might be looking at. Then number 3, research those industries. Figure out, do they need a lot of design work? Are they really competitive? Is there anything, are there specific kind of projects that they really need to do? Are those projects that you like doing? Just kind of research it, figure it out, and do a little bit of soul searching on, okay, could I do this kind of work all the time? Then think about, for step 4, what would set you apart in that industry? Do you have personal experience in the industry? Are you super passionate about that industry? Is your unique design perspective going to be unique, special in that industry? What sets you apart? What would you market yourself as? Like, what's the thing that you're going to use to say, hey, this is why I'm awesome and why you should hire me? And 5, review all of your other answers and decide from there what you think is going to be the most successful niche for you, that you like the most. Because at the end of the day, even if you're not super well networked in a niche, you can still absolutely make that work. You're going to have to work harder, and that takes time. But at the end of the day, I ultimately think that you really need to enjoy what you're doing, because hustle is tough, and hustle is even tougher if you don't enjoy it. So ultimately, big picture, one thing I would recommend is that you're passionate about what you're doing, period. So, all right. Oh, goodness, there's a lot of lag. Sorry, guys. All right, so I can probably answer questions for like another 15 minutes here. So I'll try and get to everybody. I am sorry that this lagged out on me and then I just started blabbing. So what do you think is better, a specialist or a generalist? You're a specialist because of what you have, that you have more clients and you can rule a niche without much competition. I think specializing in a particular industry is a really good way of getting a lot of, being able to have a targeted market, so you can have a focus on how you want to do, how you want to sell your skills. Now, I'm a specialist in that I focus on a specific industry, but I'm not a specialist in the kind of services that I offer. I offer everything from web design, logo development, branding, all this kind of stuff. So I still do what like a generalist designer would do as far as services, but I just focus on a specific industry. And I found that to be very successful because it's easy to find my target market because it's an industry. So there are, journals and forums and all these different areas and, conferences and all that kind of stuff that I can go to and focus on to find my people. And I found trying to do that as a generalist designer, it was a lot harder to find work. So that's why I'm a big, yay, it's good to go niche fan, because you can just find more clients that way. And you don't have to just have one niche. You can have more than one. It just means you're going to have to network in more industries, and it's going to take some more work. So, and I'm not trying to dominate my niche. I'm not trying to say that like I'm the only graphic designer out there. There are quite a few that are very good. And I think there's enough clients to go around for everyone. I am of the attitude that you're not competition. You're just a fellow designer. And, you know, ultimately my clients are staying with me because they have relationships with me. It has nothing to do with necessarily, well, my work is good, which is why they started with me in the first place. But ultimately, it's those personal relationships that have you retain clients. And that's something I work really hard on. All right. Oh, Roberto, why do you have to ask me work-life balance? You and I are so bad about that. Yeah, I try really hard to attempt a work-life balance. It's hard to because I work from home, and so I have no time punch. I have clients that are in Australia and in Europe, so I have weird hours sometimes that I keep. But ultimately, I try and make sure that I spend, you know, some quality time with my boyfriend and my dog and away from a computer screen, because I find that actually zaps my creativity if I stare at a computer screen for too long. So being out in nature and all that kind of stuff helps. But my biggest thing is that I don't do client work on weekends. That's been one thing that I've done to try and have some work-life balance. No client work on weekends unless they're paying me for a rush job. Otherwise, none. And that helps me kind of decompress a little bit. But I have to say, like, I love what I'm doing in the industry in so much that it doesn't feel as much like work. Like, sure, clients can make it feel like a little bit of work, you know, and just crazy things can happen. So, you know, I'm not la 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 la, life is perfect all the time, but I really enjoy my niche, so I don't feel like I'm working that hard, which is great. And something I know that not everyone can say. So another reason I'm a big advocate of niche. Jordan, I'm glad there's somebody else. You know, I think a lot of us have a hard time with work-life balance. It can be really, really stressful. All right, sorry, I'm going to catch up on comments here really quick. Interesting about specializing in the market, but generalizing in service you provide. Yeah, Super Mario, I really believe that service-wise, I like to still stay broad. As long as you're good at those things, I think you should still stay broad and specializing in a particular industry. Because, like I said, your target market is much more available. It's much easier to find where your clients are. And, you know, it's also easier to find price brackets in between there. Like, okay, these are the really large businesses that I'm going to get like really expensive projects from, and the small mom and pops. So I feel like you can find the kind of businesses you want to work with and the size and budgets that you want to work with too. Just a lot easier. Let's see. All right. Oh yeah, Felipe, I don't know how you work all the time. Yeah, I don't know how you do it. Roberto, yes, weekends are rough, but that's where you start. You start claiming your weekend first. So, all right, Jordan, Sean McCabe does a sabbatical where every 7 weeks, him and his team all take a day off from his business and go either on vacation or focus on other hobbies. I think that's awesome. I just recently wrote an article about 5 ways to stay creative in your niche. And I think this is true. Those tips are actually great for anybody, whether you're in a niche or not. But one of the things I listed on there was work in a different industry and get out, get away from a computer, do something that's creative, that's separate from you, especially that's separate from digital. You know, maybe you can do photography because that lets you go out and be everything. I actually do photography a lot to get my creativity going, but you know, doing things that are just for you. And I think anything where you work with your hands instead of a mouse and everything else, it creates creativity in a different way. Like your brain processes it differently. So I find I'm much more creative in my designs after I do different creative activities that are more hands-on. All right. Goodness, you guys are talkative today. Yeah, Jordan, I think that's true. I think, you know, I'm really passionate about what I do, so it's very easy for me to just say, I'm not a workaholic, I'm just passionate. But you still need a work-life balance, like everybody does. And, you know, it can hurt relationships long-term to not have that balance. So that's one of the biggest things I'm trying to avoid. So, all right. Well, I think with that, if you guys want to ask like one more question, you know, pop it in there real quick because we're going to need to wrap things up here. And apparently my throat is just dry the second that I start talking. Oh, where? Oh, wow. Stefan Stagemeister takes a year off every 7 years? That's brilliant. I'd love to be able to do that. And you know what? New goal. I will try and do that. And not try, I'm going to hustle and I'm going to succeed to do that because I'm making it my intention. We'll see in 10 years how that works. But you know, I believe if you really set your mind to it, you can do whatever you want to do within your business. You just have to be willing to work hard enough for it. So, all right. Well, I know I still got a delay here, but so if you guys have any other questions, pop them in now. What setup am I using for the live stream? I have a Logitech webcam that I do not know the model number for. It's a 720p webcam. I love that. And I've got this awesome Audio-Technica lapel mic. There's the actual lapel part. And I love this thing, but I actually got one that has a kind of has a wiring problem. So I'm going to actually have to ship this one back soon here. I'm really excited that I got it working for this broadcast. So that's it for this one. And my setup for my webcam or for my regular videos, I have a a Canon Rebel T2i. I don't know why that wasn't coming out of my mouth. So, all right. Any other questions, guys? I'm going to give it another minute or two, and then I'm going to start doing my whole little wrap-up spiel. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I really enjoyed the lively comments and being able to answer your questions and everything else. I'm glad you found the info helpful, and I will let you guys know the next time that we're going to do one of these. I'm thinking I might do one like once a month or maybe even a little more frequent than that. I am a big fan of doing webinar style things and all that kind of stuff because I love being able to interact with you guys more directly-ish. You know, I like being able to answer your questions and try and give you guys really good value without just, oh, I'll make a video about that. No, I'd rather, you know, be more interactive with you. But, you know, at the same time, having those videos is really good for like longer term education and everything. So, all right. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Please like this video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And remember, it's good to go niche. See you guys next time.